How you doing, everyone? How you doing? Thank you for having me. I came across the ocean to be able to be here, so I look forward to telling my story. Speaking of which, thank you. Speaking of which, have you ever looked out the window of a plane when it's landing and you see the street, the people walking, the cars, and they almost kind of look a little bit like ants, almost like an ant farm, right? Well, it's actually funny because humans and ants are actually very similar. The way that we are individually, ants are they can carry 5,000 times as much their weight, right? They're very, very strong, just like humans. At the same time, when they work as a collective, they're very, very strong, very powerful. An ant colony can ward off the largest of bears that's trying to attack their home. The same is with humans, whether it be, when you see sports teams or organizations, when we work together, we're actually our strongest. So, with that, you always have to look at the individual. The individual is a person with dreams, fears, aspirations, challenges, and opportunities. We're all living, breathing people, all looking to live a fruitful and rewarding life, looking to be happy. There are 4 social scientists, Rohr, Richter, Brummer, Wagner, and Schmolke, in 2018. They came up with a study that basically stated that people were most happy through social means, working with family, friends, within their institutions. That kind of was what made them the happiest. Another study also found that when people were happy at work, they were happy in general, right? There's kind of like a two-way phenomenon there. So if you were good at your work, you were happy, and if you were happy, you were good at your work. Humans, just like ants, thrive through their ability to contribute towards the collective, productivity, a colony, if you will. So additionally, humans tend to thrive best when we add value to those communities that we choose. Ants, with the way that they communicate through things like smells, some touching, interaction, and the like. Humans are actually the same. We interact through communication, talking. We also interact through emails, text messages. We also interact through products like Meta that have WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and Oculus. The way that we want to be able to make sure that we contribute to our collective is by making sure that we can contribute individually. So in order to do that, we have to be as strong as humanly possible. Adding value makes us happier. So, when people ask me how I got to my position, they always say, how did you find Meta? What's it like to work there? I'm sure it's awesome. And I always kind of pause on that because for me, I don't really feel like it's work. You see, before Meta, I'd been a recruiter for a total almost 20 years. I've worked in different industries. I've worked in industries where I was able to help people be part of a collective that were able to take spaceships and send them to the sky. I was part of companies that were able to make the microelectronics that go into the everyday devices that we use that we kind of take for granted. I even was a recruiting manager with an electric vehicle company whose main goal and aspiration was to be able to rid emissions, help save the world, and at the same time give people mobility all across the globe. So, and of course, lastly, I landed with Meta, an organization that thrives itself on being able to bring people together through all of its different technologies. Currently, I do recruiting for Oculus content, where I'm able to help people find those opportunities within our organization to really be able to pioneer into the next level of what the internet is going to be. So, in order to kind of get to where I am, I wanted to be able to tell you a little bit about my story. My story actually starts with my father. My father was born in Kumasi, Ghana, where he was going to Ghana Tech for engineering. He ended up actually going to Berkeley, California for his PhD in civil engineering. Now, just to let you know, my father was the only person in the country of the United States at the time that was getting his PhD in civil engineering that was of African descent. So that was a big deal for him. He worked very hard for that, and he's very proud of it. Upon graduation, his wife, and his 2 daughters moved to Virginia, McLean, Virginia, which is where I grew up. There, he started working as a project manager for a banking institution, global banking institution, and we grew up just about 20 minutes away from the White House. My father then later on had another little girl, and then he had me. The only boy of the family. You almost want to say I was the prince aunt of the colony, right? And so, one thing about my father always taught me when I was younger was that, work begets benefits. Meaning that even though he had a really good job and was pretty well off, if we wanted toys or if we wanted video games, it's very important I said that, video games, always remember that. But if we wanted those things, we had to work for them. Whether it be gardening, whether it be, household chores. I remember one time for a video game, I actually had to wax the entire wood floors of the house. Very tedious work for a 9-year-old, but it was definitely worth it because I was able to get the game that I wanted. So he taught me that really hard work within the colony is good for everyone involved, including the individual. For the most part, I was a very happy child until something happened when I was about 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, my mother, the queen aunt of the family, was diagnosed with colon cancer. That was a very hard time for me, but the doctors felt that they had detected it early, so they thought that they could cure her. She was going through chemo treatments to try to put the cancer into remission, but she never really felt well during this illness. There was a period of time when she had me one-on-one in the living room, and we had a conversation. And she had told me, Osei, I'm going to die. And I said to her, being the extrovert that I am, no, you're not. You're going to be fine. You're Superwoman. There's no way anything can happen to you. She said, I'm going to die, and I want you to do certain things for me. I want you to take care of your sisters. You're the only boy. So when you get older, be there for them when they need you. She also said that she wanted me to get really good grades and go to Berkeley, right? That school has always done wonders for my family, and she wanted to keep that tradition going. The other thing she told me was to leave the world a better place than when I got it. Now, of course, me being 12 and just a child, a little bit naive, I felt, okay, sure, Mom, I just agreed. Later on that year, 2 days after my 13th birthday, my mother passed away from colon cancer. Some birthday present, right? So I remember being in a situation where I was sitting in my room alone, and me, the extreme extrovert, that was very uncanny for me. That wasn't normal. And I just thought to myself, what am I going to do? My queen aunt is gone. My older sisters were all off to college. My father was traveling a lot for school. It was just me. And I had to figure out who I was going to be. And I actually had to make a conscious decision. Was I going to be the delinquent? Was I going to be the bad kid that just did bad things and did bad at school? And when someone said, why are you like this? You say, oh, because my mom died. That's an easy cop-out, right? A lot of people take that road. But my mother gave me instructions. She gave me clear instructions. So I told myself, I'm going to do what she told me to do. And I'm going to take care of my sisters, I'm going to get my grades, and I'm going to leave the world a better place than when I got it. That is a hard road, and it's the road I chose. From there, I started working really hard at school, trying to get the grades, making sure I tried to get into Berkeley. I found myself alone a lot. I still had my extracurricular activities. I was doing martial arts at the time, and when speaking with my sensei, he gave me a list of books to be able to read. The first book was the I Ching, the Book of Wisdom. He said, you want to be able to read this book because it'll tell you pretty much that a wise man understands he knows nothing, right? And that's the first thing to do to go into everything is question everything and understand you know nothing. I also read books like 48 Laws of Power to try to protect myself, figure out, what the lay of the land was, how people were trying to maneuver around me. I also read books like The Art of War, things that could tell me how to be able to plan my life in a way where I was protected moving forward. I also read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People because, me being in the position that I was going to need some help. And I also wanted to influence people. I wanted to help people with their lives. So I decided to read these books to kind of continue on. You know, when I turned 16, I've actually got my first job as kind of outside the home, right? Before, whenever I worked, it was for my father, but I wanted to really get my feet into the real world based on my recent tragedies. And my first job was actually at an American restaurant called Wendy's. Do you guys have Wendy's here? No? Okay, so Wendy's is a fast food restaurant in America, much like a Carl's Jr. or McDonald's and like. And I went there and I was excited. I was gonna work for my first week there. And I lasted exactly 7 days. The customers were rude, the floors were slippery. You know, my boss was a jerk. And so I said, you know what, this isn't my lane. And I remember what my mom had always told me. She said, you know, I want you to make the world a better place. I want you to work hard. So I started thinking about it. I said, what are my interests? What are my interests? Who am I going to be? And so I decided that I had a mission statement. My mission statement was to better myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially so that I could help others. In order to do that, I had to be in places that made me feel more comfortable. Now remember, I love video games. So the two jobs, and I also love movies, the two jobs I ended up taking were at a movie theater and a video game arcade. And I loved those jobs. I worked them both at the same time. They were great. I was still going to school. I was still playing sports. I was doing everything that a young kid could do, and I had extra money. I found myself in a very happy place. On top of that, 1 year later, I actually got into Berkeley. So one of the things my mother wanted me to do, I worked very hard to be able to get done, and I did. I felt a huge sense of accomplishment. I loved my time there. I found my little colonies, right, my little groups of friends, and was able to kind of succeed there. When I first went, again, I love video games. I wanted to design and code for gaming. The problem is, I hate coding. I didn't know that at the time. I thought, you know, it was just something easy. You just start coding and things happen. I couldn't stand it. And so I decided to do political science. I mean, after all, I grew up about 20 minutes outside of the White House. So politics was always something that we talked about around the house. Ended up graduating from there. And because I graduated from political science, typically in America, what happens, you go to law school, you become a lawyer. So again, I went out and I tried to find a job at a law office, just to see what it was like. I went to a couple of attorneys over in the Oakland, California area, and they welcomed me with open arms. I worked there for a year, and I said, this is not for me, right? Like again, it just didn't sit well with me. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so at the same time, my sister in Los Angeles was going through some life changes, and she had my nephew with her. And my mom had told me, always take care of your sisters. When you get older, be there when they call on you. So I decided to move down to Los Angeles to be with my sister and help her with my nephew. And so I made that change. And finding work at that time was difficult, even with a Berkeley degree. Again, I found myself at a loss. There was no colony for me to go to. I went from staffing agency to staffing agency, short-term contract to short-term contract, just trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do, who it is that I wanted to be. I ended up stumbling into a staffing company in the Los Angeles area, and the branch manager came out and said, you came in here looking for a minimum wage job doing anything just to make some money. But I'm looking at you, I'm looking at your resume, I'm looking at how hard you've worked to get to where you are right now. He said, why would you sell yourself so short? Why would you sell yourself so short? And at that, I just got a chill actually thinking about it. Because at that moment I realized that I had value. I had worth. I had sold myself short this entire time. He told me, I'm looking for recruiters and salespeople. If you're interested, here's my card. So I took his card, I took a look at the company, and I was sold. Remember, my mission statement, to improve myself mentally, physically, financially, intellectually, so I can help others. What is recruiting but that, right? My job is to work with people, help them maximize their day-to-day, and what they do for a living in order to make companies grow and be ultimately productive. That makes everyone happy, and it's great for society. This was my calling. So I interviewed for the role, and I immediately fell in love with everything that I saw. And I remember the day that I got called about the job was my birthday. And I remember the gentleman's, I'm going to say his call name. His name is Tom P. He said to me, "Congratulations, Osei. You got the job." And I said, "Thanks, Tom." And I stopped the beat and I said, "Tom, did you know today's my birthday?" And he said, "Oh, happy birthday," click. Just hung up on me. What he doesn't know is I was supposed to start 3 days after that phone call, which is the day after the anniversary of my mother's death. On that day, I knew that she was with me the entire time. So that started my career. I ended up becoming one of the top engineering recruiters for the organization. Ended up going on to other organizations doing management and development of recruiters. The whole time, working with individuals, getting them prepared for their next opportunity, making sure their resumes were correct, they knew how to interview, just really working hard to be able to get that done. Went on to other managerial positions, eventually landed with that electric vehicle company I was telling you about, where I was recruiting manager. Once again, we went from about 150 employees to 1,200. And now that company, which when I started, the electric vehicle, the design was a cardboard box, is now a publicly traded company, right? So literally, me and the people that I've recruited to come in there were able to make something out of nothing. Eventually, I did some consulting with other high-tech companies, and eventually landed at Meta, where now I'm working with one of the premier tech companies in the world. So I say all this to say, that we're now in a situation where I want to be able to help people to make sure that they get to where they need to be. So the reason I'm here is to provide my story for inspiration for someone out there who might feel a little bit down, discouraged. Maybe you're doing something that you don't really feel is your calling. What my advice to you is, the first thing you want to do is make your personal mission statement. Who are you? What are you supposed to do for the world, right? And that could be different it's going to be different for everyone. Just like we are individuals with our own fears, hopes, dreams, etc. Your own mission statement will be yours, but once you find it, the question becomes, now how do you implement it? Or if you're an introvert, maybe you're looking for roles that are closer to, something that doesn't really involve being around people. Maybe it might be finance, it might be, some kind of data-driven position. It could be a CFO. If you are an extrovert, it might be something more like sales, something more outgoing, recruiting, like what I do. You could be even start your own company or become a CEO. Whatever it is, you want to find out what that thing is for you, and you want to go for it hard. Once you find it, don't let anything stop you. Make sure that you're putting yourself in position to be able to succeed. If you need to go to schooling for what you want to do, go to the schooling. If you need an internship, get an internship. You need a mentor, get on LinkedIn or any other kind of network and try to find a mentor that's going to help you get to where you want to go. Because ultimately, if you're happy and you're doing well, so is the rest of the world. And finally, make it a numbers game. So if it is a position or a job you're trying to do, or if it's a company that you own and you're trying to do sales, bury it down to numbers, right? If you know you're going to apply to 20 jobs, of those 20 jobs, 5 will respond. Of the 5, 2 will give you an interview, and you need 5 to 6 interviews in order to get a new job, that means you have to reach out to 20 positions. Don't take no personally. If someone tells you no, it's okay. What's for you is for you. What's not is not. Finally, discomfort is the precursor to progress. Meaning, no matter what you're doing, whether you're being successful in it or whether you're not, make sure that discomfort you feel leads to progress. If you're doing well and you think you've mastered your craft, you haven't. Remember, a wise man or woman knows nothing. So you always want to push yourself. Kobe Bryant said, when you watch a 2-hour basketball game and you see the greatness, it took years of practice to be able to witness what you're watching. The world is similar. Work on your craft. So hopefully what I'm telling, my story, people can see this, they'll watch it, and they'll get a sense of, I guess, motivation to go out there and be the best them that they can be. Find your mission statement, execute on it. Be a part of an organization or create an organization that'll change the world for the better. Thank you.